Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Trent. This is Rams Talk, one day before kickoff. This is Saturday, filming this on a Saturday, so welcome to Rams Talk, everyone. Welcome to the NFL season 2020. Welcome to the top 10 storylines for the Rams heading into this season tomorrow. Now, if you're new to the channel, thank you for joining the community. If you're an old timer, thank you for all the continued love and support. You can find me on Instagram at LA Rams Talk and Twitter at Real LA Rams Talk, or you can just find me here. So if you have a friend who is a Rams fan but doesn't know of me, be a good friend and point him in my direction. Bring him to Rams Talk. The year is starting. We need to congregate in the same place. So really excited to hear what you have to say about the storylines I'm about to present. Any other things about the season. You can also check me out on Fan to Fan Network with a bunch of other creators. But anyways, we got the Cowboys tomorrow, and I have a lot of general thoughts going into the season, and things that I'm concerned about, and things that maybe just didn't warrant a 20-minute rant. Maybe they're like little small things. So I tried to combine them all into the top 10 things I'm thinking. And as I made this list of top 10 things, and I thought about more things, and it just snowballed. I'm like, man, I could have 30 things, top 30 things, but no one has a top 30 list. So let's just stick with top 10. I might go off on a tangent about something related on each of these points, but anyways, these are just little nuggets of thoughts that I have, and let me know what you think. So I'm going to go in descending order. So I'm going to start with the 10th storyline, 10th most important storyline in my opinion, and that's going to be turnover differential. Now, and a lot of these things that I talk about are going to be measured to the Super Bowl season of 2018 and the benchmark of what the Rams did during that year. Now, granted, that year the Cardinals were crappy, the Niners were crappy, so we beat up on two teams 4 times a year. So we, kind of padding the stats there, but the turnover differential is huge. So in 2018, we were plus 11, right? That's how you win games. Winning teams are in the plus differential for turnovers. Last year, we were 0, so we had the same amount of takeaways and giveaways. So we netted 0. It's like we never intercepted or recovered a fumble. We never threw an interception and never fumbled. So that's big. That's 11 extra possessions. That's 11 drives that the Rams stopped in 2018 compared to last year. So that's a huge deal. Now, of those turnovers, though, and I'm going to talk about this when I get down to this guy later in the rankings, but Jared Goff had 24 turnovers last year, right? So he had 16 interceptions and 8 fumbles. So even if he just cuts the fumbles in half to 4 and trims 4 interceptions off, that's 8 fewer turnovers just from Jared Goff. That's huge. That's a game or two. Like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game last year was just a Jared Goff turnover machine factory, right? So and the Rams could have won that game at the end, but there was such a big hole because of the turnovers, right? It's not always Jared Goff, but mostly Jared Goff. So the Rams need to take care of the ball. Everyone knows this, but when you see the numbers, it's apparent. So anyways, the 9th thing, home field advantage or lack thereof around the NFL. So, I thought it was funny, that last 2 years, all the Rams haters talk about, the Rams don't have any fans. When you go to a Rams game, you see only fans of other teams, only Packers fans, only Seahawks fans, only Niner fans, right? But really, in reality, there were never more than 50% of another fan base there, okay? Let's just be real. But you hear all these things. So if you just follow the haters' thinking, point of view, basically the Rams don't have a home field advantage because it's all other teams' fans, and the Rams don't have any fans. So the Rams lose nothing by not having fans at SoFi. But they have everything to gain when they go play other teams that have such rabid and loyal and amazing fan bases. I mean, seriously though, like going to Philly, no fans. After that, Buffalo, no fans. Playing in Washington, I don't even know how many fans Washington has this year, no fans. Seattle, no 12th man. San Francisco, no fans. Can't remember all the other. Tampa Bay, I mean, was that really, did they really have an advantage there? Jets, I don't know if they're playing the Jets at home. I cannot remember. Jets or Dolphins, no fans. So that is a huge deal for the Rams. They're not especially the second and third games of the season, they don't have those hostile environments. So that's a huge deal, especially for a team that doesn't have a home field advantage. Now they definitely have a road advantage. So I think that's a pretty big deal, right? Look at the Saints, look at the Seahawks. I think those are teams that could hurt the most. Even the Patriots could hurt the most from not having home field advantage with the fans there. Number 8. Now this is an interesting one. This probably merits a whole other segment, but this is what is going on with the tight ends and what should we expect? So going into last year, Tyler Higbee hadn't really done anything. Gerald Everett had that game on Monday night, but the consistency wasn't there. He had games, Everett had games where he'd go off, but for the most part, the tight end did not factor in. We had Cooks, we had Kupp, we had Woods, we had Gurley, we had J-Ray a little bit, but the tight ends really weren't involved at all until, 7-8 games halfway through the season last year. Everett really kind of goes down, and then Higbee takes off. So I looked into it. So Higbee, in his first 3 seasons, 108 targets. Last year, 89 targets. Basically, he had 20 fewer targets last year than his first 3 years combined. Gerald Everett, first 2 years, 82 targets. So basically 41 targets a season. Last year, he had 60 targets until he got injured. So essentially, and this can be attributed to the going from 11 to 12 personnel, but it's also the targets, not just having an extra tight end to block, but it's the targets. So if you look at the Rams tight ends as a whole, in 2018, they had 84 targets for the tight ends combined, Everett and Higbee. And then last year, they had 149 targets for the tight ends. So that's a 77% increase. I had to go online and figure out how to do percentage increase and plug in the numbers to get that number. 77% increase in targets to their tight ends from 2018 to 2019. Will that remain? Right? Because if you remember last year, Cooper Kupp and Brandon Cooks saw way fewer targets than they did the first half of the season. So as Higbee went up, Kupp and Cook's targets went down. So that kind of dovetails into the J-Ray and Van Jefferson. There are only so many targets, especially if we're going to run the ball more and have fewer passing attempts. There's only so many targets to go around. So is Higbee still going to be the guy on the rise? Is Everett, now that he's healthy, going to cut into that? The tight ends as a whole going to get the same amount of targets they were trending towards last year? Or the receiver is going to have more targets? Is Kupp not going to fade? Or is it going to be more of a balance the whole year round? Now, just in terms of snaps, because then I was curious about Higbee versus Everett, right? And I was kind of blown away to know that that Higbee almost doubles the snap count to Everett every year. But Everett gets more touches or more targets traditionally until he got hurt last year. So Everett was basically in there for passing, as a target, and not for the dual tight end role that Higbee is better at. But Higbee is the better all-around tight end. So anyways, last year, snaps, Everett 440, Higbee 696. The year before, when both healthy, Higbee 788 snaps and Everett 380, but that was more of 11-man personnel. So anyways, interesting to see what's going to happen with the tight ends. I personally believe that this is going to be a big-time Higbee show this year. Training camp, he's been connecting, and I think he's just there. I mean, they signed him last year before he went off. They gave him an extension. It's almost like they're like, okay, we're going to pay him before we give him a crazy workload, and then we're going to give him the workload so then he can't, ask for more money. So might have been a smart signing and smart way to go, but I'm not sure. Okay, the 7th storyline is, are Troy Hill and Darius Williams for real? More Troy Hill than Darius Williams. Are you for real? So Troy Hill, Rams fans can attest to this. Rams fans were brutal to Troy Hill for a couple of years. They always ripped him, said he was like the worst, would get off the team. He's basically treated him like how they treat Troy Reader now. But last year when he stepped in for Aqib Talib, until he got injured with 3 main games to go, he allowed the fewest receptions, 23, of any cornerback with a minimum of 300 coverage snaps. Also, he was one of only 3 cornerbacks with a completion percentage under 50%, wide receiver completion percentage or quarterback completion percentage under 50% at 45%. So he really came on. But the only thing is small sample size. It's not conclusive data. So will Troy Hill continue that? Is that the real Troy Hill going forward? Because we all know with Jalen Ramsey, so you look at the Cowboys, Jalen Ramsey is going to be on Amari Cooper. Troy Hill will most likely be on Michael Gallup. So Dak will look naturally more to Michael Gallup than he will to Amari Cooper. And Troy Hill has to hold it down. And if Troy Hill plays like he did last year, then the Rams have, I would say, probably a top 3 secondary in the NFL. So I'm hopeful that Troy Hill can keep it going. Darius Williams, when he stepped in for Troy Hill last 3 games last year when Troy Hill went down, Darius Williams had 2 or 3 interceptions and was making plays all over the place. So Darius Williams showed his worth. Darius Williams, I just listened to the Rams Revealed podcast with JB Long. Go listen to it. Very unique career path from college to the pros. I mean, PFF had him rated first team all college 1 year, but he didn't get drafted. It's crazy. So sometimes it's these guys, they have it, but they just don't get the exposure or whatever it is. And Darius Williams is I guess coming out, if you would say. So that's the thing. Is our cornerback 2, cornerback 3, is that legit? Can we be good with that? So that's a big question. So another storyline, number 6, special teams, WTF. 2 years ago, Super Bowl run. Year before that, when the Rams were crappy in St. Louis, it was like at least we had Greg Zuerlein and Johnny Hecker. Like those were our Pro Bowlers, right? Then, we had all the trick passing. We had Greg Zuerlein, making field goals from all over the place. But last year, I felt like the special teams really fell off the cliff. Greg Zuerlein, he went from 87% field goal percentage in 2018 down to 72%. I mean, it's just a few kicks in a small sample size, but it's a 15% drop off, right? He had that missed kick against Seattle. Now, don't get me wrong. Love Greg the Leg. Will always have a soft spot in my heart for Greg the Leg. But I think the Rams looked at him. He was 24 for 33 in field goals. The Rams looked at him and just thought, well, number one, we're going to have to pay him a couple mil. Maybe they couldn't spare a couple mil. But they probably saw a trend going in a different direction. So, also, like I said, the punts, the fake punts, the fake field goals, the trickery, like the ingenious stuff that Bones Fossil drew up. You didn't really see that last year. So I remember seeing kickoffs going out of bounds. It just looked sloppy. It looked very sloppy last year. So for me, it's not just it's what do we do now with Samuel Sloman? Is he the real deal? Is he going to be better than Zuerlein was? Do we have any tricks? Are we just going to be kind of playing it straight? Are Nasimba Webster and Darrell Henderson with punt returns and kick returns? Do we have any juice there with those guys? Because Pharaoh Cooper is gone, and oh God, who's the little like super little guy? Oh man, and his name is escaping me, but he's no longer with the team. So, what's the deal with that? That's a huge issue. That could actually have been like number 1 on this list. So moving on, number 5, something that is a little bit technical, 6-1. What are the Rams going to do about the 6-1 front that started in the end of 2018, culminated in the Super Bowl when Bill Belichick put 6 linemen on the line, almost like a goal line D with a middle linebacker right behind him. So 6 linemen, 1 behind him, and then you had your 2 corners and your 2 safeties back there. And that really neutralized the Rams' outside zone running scheme. That took Todd Gurley out of the Super Bowl, and teams are playing the Rams like that last year, 6-1. They're like, whoa, look what the the Patriots did, and even the Lions did, and look how effective that was in taking out the Rams running game. You take out the Rams running game, you take out the play action, you make the Rams one-dimensional, put it all on Goff. That's what Belichick did, and that's what teams started doing last year. The Rams started mitigating against that with 12 personnel and doing other types of runs, not just zone, outside zone, but they were doing duo, they were doing inside. They started mixing it up. Now, in a conference call, Michael Brockers recently, just this past week, was asked, I guess, kind of what is different this year than last year, what are you guys working on? And he said, we were working all on the 6-1 fronts. So essentially, and he's like, yeah, we got that down now. Or something like that. Like we worked on what Belichick threw at us and other teams were throwing at us, like they countered the Sean McVay brilliance. And so this year, this is what you want to see. You want to see learning, you want to see development, right? And so apparently they worked on mitigating and playing against the 6-1 fronts that they should see. So if they just say, hey, we're going to go back, McVay's like, I'm doing 11 personnel, maybe I'll switch in some 12 personnel here or there, and we see the 6-1 front, boom, I know what we're doing. And everyone knows what they're doing now. It's not like, oh shit, what the hell is this? So the 6-1 front, just pay attention. When you watch the Cowboys game tomorrow or any other games, just see if you notice 6 guys lined up on the line of scrimmage. It just suffocates the run game, right? So if teams start throwing at the Rams, hopefully now they're prepared. According to Michael Brockers, they are. And that will have a trickle-down effect into point number 2 that I get to. But now we're going to go to the 4th storyline, the defensive scheme and what will it look like. So Brandon Staley comes over from Denver with Vic Fangio, who was there in Chicago, and essentially they were all about running the nickel, all about the nickel defense. So what they liked is the safety / linebacker hybrid. You guys know Isaiah Simmons, the guy who was drafted by the Cardinals, and they don't know where to put him. He's like a linebacker, but a safety. And that's exactly what Staley loves. He loves the Burgess. He loves Jordan Fuller, Taylor Rapp, these guys that can play in the box, that can cover the slot, do all these things. So Leonard Floyd, great sealing the run, great at dropping back and pass coverage. And so all of these different looks that Staley's going to do, I mean, it wouldn't be surprised if the Rams did a 2-4-5, right? A 2-4-5 is 2 linemen, 4 linebackers, and then 5 defensive backs, right? The league is going pass heavy. So if you're playing a pass heavy squad, if you're playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you could go 2-4-5. So what is the scheme going to look like? So Fangio used safety nickel a lot. Rams were last in the NFL in lining up a nickel. So that's going to be a huge change. Do they do that? We don't know. We don't know if Staley's going to run a straight Vic Fangio defense, or he's going to kind of tweak it and make it his own. Maybe he'll do that based on the Rams personnel. Also, Denver last year had lots of sacks from their interior linemen. Hey, music to our ears. That's Aaron Donald all day. So, that's what we really don't know what the defense is going to look like. That's a huge storyline that you hear about, this positional versatility all the time, and I think you're going to see it because one thing that they talked about the Bears defense 2 years ago when they were awesome was that a quarterback would take the snap, he'd scan the right side, go through his reads, he'd scan the right side, he'd see man coverage, then he'd go through his progressions to the left side, probably gearing up to make a pass, and he'd see that they were in zone. So it's lots of disguise. So when you have players that can do on the defensive side of the ball more than one thing and play more than one position, that means that they can drop into coverage, they can rush, they can play zone, they can play man, and you're mixing it up like that all the time. So the offense really is confused. And it worked against the Rams when the Bears played the Rams 2 years ago. Number 3 storyline, unproven players. Rams roster is the 3rd youngest roster in all the NFL. What does that mean, right? So we don't know. There's so many question marks with guys. I mean, a lot of teams have question marks, but I mean, we moved on from so many vets and we have so many unknowns. Micah Kaiser's never really played a snap in the NFL. You have on the offensive line Corbett and Noteboom, right? We don't really know what their going to bring to the table? Is No Boom going to be a bust? Is this the year he figures it out, stays healthy? Corbett, does he figure it out at right guard instead of left guard? Kaiser, right? Troy Reeder is actually listed on the official Rams depth chart as the number 2 inside linebacker. Troy Reeder, a lot of fans trash Troy Reeder. Last year was his first year. Let's give him a break. All right? Can he bring it? Kenny Young. Who knows what Kenny Young can do? Justin Hollins. Justin Hollins has more tape than any of those guys, but, on a different team. Obo hasn't really played much. Jachai Polite hasn't done anything, right? Troy Hill, Darius Williams, like I mentioned, we don't know how they're going to do this year. David Long. Is he going to be starting at nickel? I don't even know. How many snaps are they going to rotate him in as? Terrell Burgess, Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson's second year, and we don't really even know what he brings to the table fully. So many questions, so many young guys that are been on the roster for a couple of years, now just getting their shot. So we feel confident as Rams fans living in our bubble saying, hey, yeah, Obo, man, but we don't know. Kaiser, man, we don't know. So Darrell Henderson, is he how hyped we were? Have you noticed how much hype has fallen off Darrell Henderson? Now that Cam Akers is here and Darrell Henderson got injured. So that'll be interesting. Unproven players. Okay, going to number 2. Number 2 could really be number 1. But number 2 is the running game. Okay, the running game. Last year with Todd Gurley, remember? It was the pitch count that he's on. What's going on with Todd Gurley? Every game was this drama over what's up with Todd Gurley's knee. Why isn't he getting enough snaps? Is he okay? Does he look the same? And you get the coaching staff, Todd Gurley, all just saying the exact same thing. I don't know, just one game at a time. Taking what the defense has given us, right? That dictated everything. And so it was this whole thing, the whole year. What's going on with the running game? It doesn't look right. We're not committing to it as much. Is that because the 6-1 defense? So many times I heard Sean McVay say, well, we changed our game plan based on what the defense was giving us. Was it giving you the 6-1? So you went away from the running game? Did you have zero confidence in Todd Gurley's knee? We didn't know. So that was a huge storyline last year. So going into this year, we don't have it. The main storyline though is what's a running game going to look like? We got Brown, we got Akers, we got Hendo. We have other running backs too, but those are the main 3 guys. Are we going to commit to that? If teams throw the 6-1 at us, how are we going to mitigate against that? Are they going to catch passes out of the backfield? Didn't really do that much last year. So in 2018, the Rams ranked 3rd in the NFL in yards with 2,231. Last year, they ranked 26th in yards with 1,499. Basically a 700-yard differential. 700 fewer yards last year than the year before. 2018, they averaged 4.9 yards per carry. Last year, 3.7 yards per carry. So also 58 fewer attempts last year. So the Rams, they went pass heavy. Jared Goff threw the ball 61 more times in last year than he did the year before. In that Dallas game last year, he threw the ball 51 times. Granted, the Rams were behind most of the game. The Rams ran the ball 12 times or whatever. So it's that balance. It's that running game. I feel good about Cam Akers. I feel good about Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown, but it's the offensive line. Can they help out? But it's also, add another tight end, do 12 personnel, scheme against the 6-1 defense or whatever they're throwing at you, because that's how the Rams work. But you got to commit to it. You got to show you can run different looks, because teams are just taking out the running game, and the Rams didn't do anything about it. So can they do something about it this year? If they can get around 100 yards a game plus every game between all their running backs, then they're good. So it's the running game. It's really making that happen. And the number one thing, and this is a combo because I thought of the 11th, an extra thing at the same time, but we already had 10, and it's the O-line and Jared Goff. 2 years ago, the O-line was top 5. Last year, they were 31st according to Pro Football Focus. That's just not going to cut it. If they can go from 31st down to just league average 15, that's a massive improvement. Massive improvement, right? So I feel good with Whitworth. Havenstein's coming back. We're going to call this the plexiglass principle. I've mentioned this before, but when teams overexceed if a player overexceeds by 20% one year, there's going to be a regression. If he underachieves by 20% one year, the next year he's going to get, it's going to come back to the mean. It's going to be a little more positive. Might not get all the way there, but it's going to come back up. So you look at the Rams offensive line and their offense in general, and took a massive step back last year. That's not who they are. So I expect that they will be better than they were last year. They're not going to be top 5, top 10, but if they're top 15, I'll take it. That's a massive improvement. That means everything else is going well. So, when Blythe went into center last year after Brian Allen got hurt, he didn't take any reps at center during training camp or practice last year. He just was thrown in because he'd played it before. So he just was like getting caught up on the fly. Austin Corbett gets traded. He didn't have a training camp to get caught up on the playbook and the Rams offense, right? So both of those guys, full year going and know what they're doing. Noteboom, he knows the system, so if he's fully healthy, then this is going to be the year for him to shine, and Havenstein will be better than he was last year. He can't be worse. So I'm hopeful about that. Now, Jared Goff, like I said, turned the ball over a lot, had 61 more passing attempts, but what he worked on in the offseason was off-schedule throwing. So basically making sure his mechanics were sound while he's moving around in the pocket, throwing off his back foot, throwing off the run, going to his left, going to his right. Basically, when he assessed what he needed to learn and what he was told he needed to progress at was, listen, the offensive line will never be or won't be this year what it was in 2017 and 2018. It'll be better, but you're still going to be put in some uncomfortable situations, so you need to learn how to throw on the run, throw off different angles, and make sure your mechanics are clean. And that's what he worked on. And apparently he did really well. So I'm hopeful that even if the offensive line breaks down a little bit, then Goff can make those throws. But hopefully he doesn't have to make all the throws because the running game is working. So it's like top two things are offensive line, Goff, and running game. That's it. So that's a lot. We're at 27 minutes right now, so I know I missed a lot of things. I know you guys probably are going to have a lot of things to say in the comments about what you think the biggest storylines are. But yeah, for the sake of sparing you some time back in your day, that's it. I'm going to call it. But thank you so much for watching. So excited to see the game tomorrow versus Dallas. And if you made it to the end, congratulations, you're a true Rams fan. Please hit subscribe. Please watch another video. And as always, go Rams. Say go Rams.